Thank you so much for coming tonight. This is thrilling to see so many people excited about the arts in North Ogden. This is awesome. I'm Tracy Hansford, and I'm with the Utah Division of Arts and Museums, which is your state agency all about arts and culture. So we are a government-funded state agency funding and fostering the arts and culture across Utah. And this is my colleague and supervisor, Jason Bocut, who's
I got my eye on her. That's why I'm here.
He's making sure I'm working, and you all are witness. We're really excited. In particular, my job is to work with local arts agencies across the state. So that's city and county arts councils, guilds, commissions, boards, and so that is what we're here to talk about tonight. First thing though, I want to do a round of introductions to find out who's in the room. We got a lot of people. We're thrilled there's a lot of people here. So I'd love for you to say your name, and if you have an organization or an art form you love, like what brought you here to discuss the arts. But think you've got like 10 to 15 seconds, okay? So I'll start us out, and then I'm going to throw it back here, okay? Okay, so Tracy Hansford, Division of Arts and Museums, and actually...
Yeah, Jason Boca, I'm the Community Arts Manager for Utah Division of Arts and Museums.
Go ahead.
So John Call, North Ogden City Administrator.
Annette Spanza, City Recorder and Human Resource Director.
You're part of the room. We want to perfect. Go ahead.
Carolee Barker, and we're residents that just really love the amphitheater.
Awesome.
Brent Barker. I'm here because Carolee's here.
I'm Debbie Child, and I love the arts, and I'm glad to see something that my kid can participate that's not sports. So I love it.
Bill Swanson, City Council.
Great.
Blake Severing, I'm also on the City Council.
Ryan Hadley, and I'm trumpet player in the North Ogden Community Band.
Excellent. Go ahead.
Joyce Van Tassel, North Ogden Community Band.
And Lauren Jepson. Oops.
No, go ahead. Go for it.
North Ogden Community Band.
Excellent.
Red Brand Band.
Brenda Ashtown, came for information.
Awesome.
Margene Swanson, Arts and Education.
Tiffany Staley, North Ogden City Parks.
Cheryl Stoker, City Council.
Mark Daniels, we write theater teacher.
Meryl Spanlove, I have a degree in music.
Excellent. Heather Nolden, I believe in the arts and what it can do for our children.
Marvelous.
I'm Chelsea Nelson, and I also believe in the arts and what it can do for our children, and I'm a theater coach for the Ogden School District Summer Theater Program, and play clarinet. Keep meaning to come join the band.
Perfect.
Trina Call, and I just like to support the arts through plays, theater.
I'm Matt Collin. I enjoy music and the arts with my children.
Debbie Mumpower, and I'm a first timer, and I'm here to hopefully spark some interest in farmers market from North Ogden.
Excellent.
Kyle Meets, and I'm a supporter figure.
Anne Marie Meets, I'm his mother. He's very into the arts, so I support him.
Oh, John Thomas. I am a a dance teacher at Highland Junior High School, but I just got hired at Fremont High School.
Congratulations.
I'm Dale Anderson. I'm just a citizen. I just saw this happening, so I think it's fun.
Perfect. I'm Dale's wife, Julie, and what he doesn't know is we run the youth host program. We've run that for many years now. I will support the arts.
Great. Let's go back here.
So I'm Kale Sobey. And I'm a student under Mark Daniels out at Weaver High.
Great.
I'm Ben Sobey. I really like music and theater.
I'm a Sobey graduating senior from Weaver High, and I love performing of all sorts.
Excellent.
David Sobey, Orion Junior High Music.
Sarah Sobey, and I like to sing and dance.
I'm Shannon Sobey. I'm a choir teacher at Clearfield High School.
Wonderful. And up here, what do you say?
Melanie Barker, I'm a supporter of the arts, but I'm very concerned about the amphitheater in a quiet neighborhood.
Okay.
Stephanie Casey, I love music, especially live music.
Oh,
Sean Casey, DJ, producer, engineer.
Great.
Ryan Barker, I'm with the city council and fire department. That's those are my arts.
Kim Christensen, I do love the arts, been a supporter of it for a long time, but I am concerned about where it's at right now.
Great. Excellent. Thank you all so much. Oh, we've got one more. Can you introduce yourself?
I am Peggy Barker and of the Barker Park.
Excellent. And you're walking in right at the right moment. Name?
Introduce yourself.
And your organization or your love of the arts? Go for it.
I'm Scott Hendricks, I just live over here, was in the play last summer, so.
I'm Cammy Hendricks, I'm his daughter, I was also in the play last summer.
Great, we got plenty of room
Table
over
right
here.
over here, come join in.
Come on in.
Daniel Elizabeth Babcock, we're lovers in North Ogden.
Perfect. Come on in. Thank you. So glad you all are here. I must say, that is the most concise and perfect round of introductions I think I've ever seen in a group this size. So good work. Thank you. Marvelous. So we want to tell you just a little bit more about our division before we get started, just so you understand kind of why we're here and our organization. So Jason's going to do that.
So we're the Utah Division of Arts and Museums. We're two organizations that were combined a few years ago. The Utah Arts Council, a lot of people know us as, and the Office of Museum Services. We are one agency that serves the entire state in the cultural sector. So we exist under the Department of Heritage and Arts, and then they report directly to the governor's office. So our funding comes from the National Endowment for the Arts, and then is matched by our state legislature. We have a grants pool that we give out, a pretty significant amount of money, comparative, to other fields. But we have a grants pool of about 1.6 million that has been our ongoing for many years. And this is funding that organizations across our state tap into. This last year, our governor really is a strong supporter of the arts. He advocated for a $6 million increase to our budget. It didn't happen. We were really like, what? But we did get one-time increase of $2 million. So going from 1.6 to 3.6 is an extraordinary change for us. I bring this up because if you are a nonprofit organization, or if you're under the municipality and you're a cultural organization, and you are not tapping into our grants programs, you are letting money lie at the table. There is money that should be coming into North Ogden that we would love to see come into your community. I want to point this out a couple of times. And I'm sorry it's not bigger, and we also forgot our brochures. So our website, if you all want to write this down, just to check through at different times, we've got all kinds of different programmings, resources, grants. artsandmuseums.utah.gov. Again, that's artsandmuseums.utah.gov. So, as well as having our grants program, we have got different programs in our agency, like our visual arts program and the performing arts program, which I manage. Museum services, traveling exhibition program. It's an incredible organization with a lot of resources that I would encourage anyone to reach out to us personally. We like to think of ourselves as a very high-touch division. We love it when people reach out to us. We love when we can have the conversation that is the aha moment of, hey, you know what, actually we can help you in this resource. And suddenly open a door for your community to tap into something new, or to support something that's already been there, but support it in a new way. So that is what our organization is, and we hope that we hear from most of you, all of you, if you want. Yeah, any questions about Utah Division of Arts and Museums? Okay, great.
Awesome. So I said this earlier, but I'll say it again. So a local arts agency is a board, council, commission, guild, or other sort of organization that serves to foster the arts and culture in either a town, a city, a county, or some sort of distinguished area. So the Division of Arts and Museums is the local arts agency for the whole state. And then we have 75, 50 to 100, depending on what's going on year to year, different local arts agencies all over. So Salt Lake City Arts Council is the Salt Lake City local arts agency. Ogden also has their city arts council, right? So we're here to discuss the future North Ogden Arts Guild, right? I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the ways this type of organization can run. There are, just like any other nonprofit or business, there's often a president, a vice president, a secretary, a treasurer, a publicity or a marketing person, those sorts of positions that are managing events and activities. But for local arts agencies, they're serving this unique role in a community. Sometimes they're really working on one particular art form that the community has decided is really important. In Utah, often that's theater or choir or band. Or they're acting as like a big hub for that organization, or for that area, excuse me. So maybe they're really marketing every art activity or cultural activity that's happening in the city or county, and really fostering. Really lucky local arts agencies get to re-grant like we do. Even in smaller areas, the city or the county takes funding like a ramp, a ZAP tax, and redistributes that fund through a local arts agency. So, like I said, oftentimes there's these president, vice president positions, and other times there's a chairperson per genre. So there might be a theater chair, a choir chair, a film chair, a literature chair, a humanities chair, and that person is handling events and activities all year for their genre, but working with a team and with the rest of the board or council members. Couple examples from Utah, just to give you some ideas. Boulder is one of my favorite towns in Utah. It's a town of 200, but they have a vibrant arts council. They throw concerts in the park every summer. They have exhibits in their city hall that they're, like a visual art rotating exhibit that they manage. And they give out I don't want to make them really small, but they're small amounts of money for people to put on community activities. So last year, someone got a small grant and they ran their own theater production in that town, or they might put on a certain type of class with that amount of money. Other arts councils, like Cache Valley Center for the Arts, is located in Logan. They manage a huge performing arts center for their city. They're also the local arts agency for the entire county. And so they're kind of an incubator for smaller nonprofits that are using their space. They also act as a big hub. They take in all the events that are happening in the county and publish a quarterly calendar advertising everything that's going on. So those are kinds of, the two extremes. Some in-between examples are like Zion in Springdale. The Zion Arts Council has those chairs that I talked about. One person is really doing film events a couple times a year. Somebody else is managing those visual arts. They actually have 7 chairs handling the different art forms. So those are kind of examples of how local arts agencies can function. Does anyone have questions about this type of organization?
Sometimes these organizations are completely all volunteer run. Sometimes the city will hire a person and it will be a city employee, like Holiday Arts Council. They have an employee who's a part-time employee that runs the agency. A lot of times these people are fundraisers. You know, these are often nonprofit organizations who are out seeking grants or seeking sponsorship, seeking marketing dollars. And there are many throughout our state. And we applaud the idea that North Ogden is looking into creating something like this to support your cultural community. I was talking just on earlier, as we're driving in, we're seeing a lot of growth in your city. There's a lot of new build. And you know, you want to kind of figure out what is the community that we want to create for ourselves that will be long-lasting, but will also be really welcoming. And I think culture can play an important part in that.
Another thing to talk about is your city is, you know, starting this out. They've welcomed you all to, you know, talk about an arts council. Sometimes these organizations are more like grassroots. You know, a group of people gets together, they start their own nonprofit, and then they start working with the city's blessing, maybe at a later time, hopefully. But we love to see these organizations start or still continue to function within cities, because then you're supported with some help, you know, from an establishment, and you don't have to do everything from the ground up. You know, we like that. So.
And we have no agenda in respect to this. However you decide you want to create this, or if you want to create this, our role is to support that decision, to give you options, to say, yeah, you could completely function that way, or this way. It's really about how the community decides they want something like this. And so what we have got planned today is not about saying, make a decision, have an arts guild or don't have an arts guild. This is about today, what are the assets that already exist? What can you pull from? What do you want to vision yourself to be? Yeah. And then ultimately, that's work that you do with your council.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, any questions before we start our activity?
I have one.
Yeah.
So you talk about the art guild, and then you talk about a city that hired somebody.
Yeah.
Do you recommend they have both, or just one of each?
Our druthers are that if a city council chooses to have an arts guild, if the city, a municipality, chooses to have an arts council, we prefer that be a person that is on staff. We prefer, in a perfect world, that person is a hired staff member. But we've seen it function in many ways. You know, sometimes if they are a nonprofit organization, their activities, their fundraising helps to pay a staff person. I do think there is great benefit when someone is, even at a part-time level, focused on this work for a community. You know, when you're creating something like a cultural plan, you want a consistent person to be a voice that can help it not just be like for a few months or half a year, but to have longevity, to help develop the community that is already developing around you. It is advancing. And this voice can help to direct or steer those conversations. Yeah, please come join. There's some seats right here. Yeah, come around the front.
Let's just make ourselves really
grab a cookie on your way.
To emphasize what Jason is saying, many of these organizations do not have paid staff.
Yeah.
And in those places, we see a lot of turnover because volunteers get tired or they move, you know. And so when there's that position, it helps with the consistency. But many of our local arts agencies, especially in smaller cities and towns, don't have a paid staff members. And they've been functioning for a long time.
Yeah, I just wondered if you should have both or just one of each.
Usually there is both. There's like a paid staff that's supported by a volunteer council, and sometimes there's lots of staff. You know, in big organizations. Great question. Thank you. Any other questions? Great. Okay, so we're doing a brainstorming activity. I know, Just take a breath. It's gonna be fun, I promise. All right, you have on your table a big sticky note. And what I'm gonna do is pass out Okay, sorry, we're reorganizing. Alright, I am passing out questions for each group. Can I have your attention, please? Alright, up here. Wonderful. So you've got your big post-it. What we'd like for each group to do, Jason, is to brainstorm answers to the question I've given your table. You each have different questions. So take a minute, think about it. I've left brainstorming instructions on your table. We'd like for each table to have a scribe that's capturing notes, or maybe two if you want, and one person to act as your facilitator. Be the leader of the group. Make sure each person in the group gets to contribute and answer the question. We don't want anybody left out, okay? So write down your answers. I'm going to give you 15 minutes to think about this. At the end, I'll give you a warning. I'd like you to think about which are the most important answers. What was the most valuable? What kept coming up as you discussed? And then one member of your group is going to come up and talk about your question to the rest of the group. One person from each group is going to report out. So elect that person, and you'll come up and discuss your question with the rest of the group. And the whole group will have the chance to answer every question. All right? Any questions? You know, try to have the top, the sticky part. Yeah, because the sticky part be the top.
As you go through this, if you have questions, raise your hand and we'll come over and help you.
Yep. All right, you have 15 minutes to discuss and brainstorm.
They're centered. I know.
So did they, that means it's it's kind of this weird thing. It's just a right hand around. So we're gonna go out here and no, so the front's out here, the road's out here. So then we're gonna turn. Because right now we have a kitchen. It'll be a big, kitchen with island. And then the dining room will stay. But Emily wants to put a roof for it. Because there's that little weird loft. But she wants to expand it up here. Put some stairs up on this going down so that Here instead of that weird thing usually this is my message if it's something that's
That means you have to censor it too. That's right, that's exactly right.
I'm really glad you found that too, because like you said, it's a deal for you, and it works for them, and that's a really good, like, as far as you can get somebody brother lives, so he's on the other side of Harris, kind of kidding for
Organized to make sure that we spend.
He's already down there. What's the lunch bringing back up? What is she bringing? Sunday, because I've got the manager conference the first 2 days. You can, just in the trunk. Yeah. So last year when I did my dad has a 16-12 car hauler. No, I think Yeah, well, I said, I don't know if the names on it, you're good, that you can get the taxes stuff. But talk to your tax
Here's an idea. We could say, look, we want those applications to go to that's a good idea right now. Outside our church. The other.
I also think we have to No, wait. It wasn't. Yeah, I know, that's why I was like, maybe we gotta get
Jeremy, did you see there's cookies and water? Well, good self-restraint.
for real.
You want these written on this? Yeah. You're kidding. You and I for me.
So you know, all right, so in my position, so I'm curious, is that there should be no discrimination. I'm a first year in
I just know how sensitive these things are now.
so that's my personal
Because you've got that one there.
That's why we're sitting here.
But even then, the other thing
It's not even raised. How many do you want to have? Okay, Judge Hyde says it's for everyone. So we've already got public no, if we can squeeze that. Yeah, it was for any qualified. Yes, I did notice one
Tracy, do you want us to take those pictures down? We can take them down.
That helps?
Or you can use them like you, or you could just tape up on them.
It's fine. We'll just. Can I stick to this?
Yeah.
Okay. No, we got plenty of space. Alright, folks, you have just a few more minutes. Be sure to highlight your top ideas.
The thing is, she's really good at accountable with people. She's not but she
Alright, you choose a representative from your team to your spokesperson.
Or we can choose for you.
All right, I have two teams with question number 1.
Yeah, so let's start here with this table and this table. We're doing question number 1.
Can you send up your representative?
Who wants to be your representative?
I'd love to do it. Yeah, they have one and they
Yeah, just tell them about what you thought about it.
Yeah, okay.
Matt, are you Vanna?
All right, can I have your attention?
Hey Matt, it's you. Were you back in the corner?
All right, here's how this is gonna work. We have,
Here, I can hold it for you. It's ready.
yeah, there we go. We're gonna ask these lovely people to report out. You don't need to go through every idea your team discussed, but some top highlights, the themes. You all kind of look at what they've brainstormed, and then after they're finished, Jason and I will write down additional ideas. All right, or you all, if you have it on your page, we'll underline it. All right.
So would someone read the question that you had?
Sorry, I can do that. Okay. What are the greatest cultural strengths, assets, or people in your community? Do you want to start us out?
Yeah, obviously this has a very once on this island flair to it, for those of you who were involved in that. But the first, as we talked about people, the first name that came up obviously was Mark Daniels, because he has really built this culture over years in our community. So he was a big person. Melissa Shartuti, she does a lot. John Thomas was involved also in Once on This Island. Britta Miles, I don't know her personally. Her name came up as, I know she does a lot musically in our area. When it came to our strengths, an established culture was one thing that really came up. And that established culture really has an artistic excellence. When people come to our community and culture and to view our culture, the things that we have for them to see, whether it's musical theater or artistic display of any kind, they know that they are going to see excellence in whatever field that is. Really high quality. What else did we talk about? Oh, very supportive community. We thought it was really awesome that the first show that our community put on actually ended up in the black. And we thought that that was really cool thing. And the supportive city council, somebody brought up the, with the supportive community and supportive city council, how we can use that to influence, to receive grants and to receive other types of funding, so how that is a really good thing. And then when we get back to people, and just talent within our community, we do have a community band that meets. Exit 349, they're a group that somebody brought up, just the talent within our community that we have in a North Ogden Museum. When it came to assets, the amphitheater obviously is a big one. The schools that we have, the parks that we have set up, the senior center, what did we have on that one? Oh, RAMP, the funding that we are receiving from RAMP at the time.
Awesome.
That was covered.
Great job.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're answering the same question, which is what are the greatest cultural strengths, assets, or people in our community? And we summarized this by saying that we are an accepting, tight-knit, family-centered, creative group of diverse volunteers with opinions and respect. because
That's awesome.
that's Heather, I'm Chelsea. We get that all the time. And it's okay. See, and the reason we brought that up is back at our table, it's funny, when we're knee deep in the arts, right? We're in the play, we're in Once on This Island, we're in the band, we surround ourselves with arts people who this is what we live, breathe, and think. But our community is more than just those who breathe the arts. And it is important to respect their opinions and take those opinions into consideration because this is a community endeavor. This is not just let the theater geeks go over and run rampant at the amphitheater. That's not what this is going to be, right?
No.
Because, right?
It should be. Because otherwise, it's distilled down into drag.
Perfect. Is there anything over here you want to highlight that?
That's what we highlighted.
Yeah.
So we've got, that the strengths in our community is that because we are growing, we are looking for diversity. We're willing to bring that in. We have strong history so that the museum, and we can build museum exhibits and things, and having all kinds of artists, historians, writers, and we have got a lot of people who want to see the arts. We've got a lot of people that want to support the arts, so it's not just about ramp or government money, it's people in the neighborhood who want to support this. And I think all of the people are the real assets, and their character and their diversity is the real strength.
Awesome.
So,
thank you. All right, we've covered a lot here. And with two groups brainstorming, is there anything you all feel is missing? Sure.
It seems like it's geared towards theater. We've got to, this has to be for everybody, not just theater.
We added visual arts and musical arts on there as well because
Perfect.
North Ogden has amazing visual artists. I mean, people that make their money getting to paint and draw. I mean, we have just amazing.
Well, and
Perfect.
I note our local museum. We have a museum.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna let.
It's not just musical stuff.
No, definitely not. Okay. We've got the museum down on this one, so that one's covered, and Jason's capturing this thought. Anything else you feel like has not been mentioned?
Dance.
Dance. Lovely.
What is the dance that happens here?
Right there.
What is the dance that
Come to the
exists here?
parade.
We have dance groups,
Dance groups?
we have dance teams,
Great.
Great. Perfect.
we have dance classes.
Doesn't everyone dance?
I love that. Okay.
Why don't you show me?
So we're going to move on to the next question, but each table has some Post-it notes. If you think of something else you feel like isn't captured, go ahead and jot it down, and you can add it in as we're finished, all right? Okay, question number 2. I always debate forcing people to mix up who they came with or not. So I think this was great. Just have a monopoly. All right. Question 2 was, what do you see as the benefit to having a local arts agency or arts guild? Go ahead.
So many. So these are ones that we discussed. We have all different ages back there. The first one was to allow the community to give input as to what their specific needs are. Not every community is a cookie cutter community. Every community is different. And I think having a platform for us to give input is extremely important. Next one, continue the development of the arts, music, post K through 12. So I teach high school choir, and I have so many kids come back to me that say, we want to sing. we want to get a group together, we want to do this, we want to do that. And there really is no platform or venue to be able to continue and develop this talent that we have in the community. And I think this, obviously I have a vested interest, I would love to start a fire, but I think that's something that is a need right now in our community. And I hear it from all over. We need to start something, we need to do something. So that would help do that, not only just in theater, but in orchestra. I'm a string player, I've got kids that are in band, choir, and orchestra, and theater. And that's important, very important. Okay, number 3, it binds us together as a community. I think sometimes divisiveness happens, takes place, but when you come together and the product of this guild would create something that binds people together forever, for the rest of your life. And when you see people that you have spent time with, that have put in blood, sweat, and tears over a production, or over a concert, or a presentation, or a dance concert, those things, those experiences that you have do nothing but bind you closer together. And I do not see any downside to that opportunity. Okay, 4, preserve culture. We have a wonderful, thriving culture here in this community. And I think sometimes we need to help bring that younger generation into that, because they're the ones that are going to preserve it, and that will also give us another opportunity. Projects that they will sponsor will provide wholesome activities for the generations to come. This is a big deal for us because we have 8 kids, and so we will help perpetuate whatever we can in that arena. Oops, sorry. Okay, and then we just kept going. Sorry. Number 6, provide opportunities to choose interests and develop and discover their talents. Like, we're not just talking about theater, we're talking about all art forms. There's some amazing people that can paint, and I think of Chase Dahl, all these opportunities that he can draw. And I think that's all their talents, giving them a place to present them, because you can't do that everywhere. And if there is a place, John,
Actually, when I was about 12 years old, I found community theater, and I kind of got obsessed. And it wasn't just theater, but also it was dance, it was music. I found that was where I explored, and when I got to high school, that's where I actually prepared professionally to get ready for college. I think that if we always treat our schools as the exploration ground, we'll never truly foster the next generation of artists to a degree strong enough that will allow for the arts to not only to affect professionally, but more importantly to affect communities. Because you don't get it. I just feel like that is where I gained that connection that helped me.
Well, you're just getting your feet wet in high school. You're just growing your baby teeth in high school, truly. Number 7, create or produce art that will benefit and uplift any presenter/performer as well as the patrons. Again, the arts are something that bind us together, that give us a greater life experience than we can have on our own. Whether it's theater, whether it's dance, whether it's the choral art. We just went to festival last night, and I saw kids pouring their hearts out and listening to them sing for one another, and that was just, it's magical when it happens. And 8, create support for local businesses. There has to be, it always boils down to, like, we know that. So I know that having these opportunities for businesses to sponsor the arts, to advertise in programs, to be able to connect themselves with something that a community loves so dear will do nothing but benefit a business.
Great job.
I want to add that we talk a lot about the economic benefits of having art. So in addition to that side, if you have things going on in your city, people will come here and spend money, and that's good for the businesses, hotels, everything. Awesome. Okay, so any other benefits that you all see to having a local arts agency that weren't captured?
I didn't see the individual represented.
like an individual artist.
Yeah, it was a lot about the community, and I'm quite certain the community is made up of individuals.
Awesome, that's great. Anything else? Benefits? Yeah.
Well, I'm with Sean. The individual needs to be there. That's what it's about. But if you have a local arts guild, you're going to have more familiarity with those kinds of people that are available in the community and how you can best serve them. Very often at Cherry Days, they've done a visual arts display of local artists, and that's cool. You can see paintings, you can see sculptures and things like that that are done by people here. That's awesome.
I think that there'd be a real benefit just from the communication with one another, being able to collaborate and schedule things to support all the different groups together. I didn't even know that they had an art display at Cherry Days, but as part of this, if this group is created in some way, we can learn about all these different avenues of arts and support all the different aspects instead of just a couple because we know about them.
Perfect. Thank you, Jason. Any last ideas? All right, let's move on to question 3. Okay, so what was our question 3? Come on up.
Good luck, Ben.
So their question was, what are the greatest challenges or weaknesses that might prevent your community from creating or maintaining a local arts agency?
So we put our staff on this long list, and then we found out we had to put it on a poster. So there's a lot of detail that's left out, and you guys can add a ton more to it, I'm sure. So some of the weaknesses and concerns that we came up with were financial issues. We're concerned, and we support the production costs that would be incurred from putting on whatever form of art presentation that we're doing. Retaining staff. So we have some people that are very, very skilled at being able to produce the arts, and they are fabulous geniuses. And then there's the rest of us that are young and dumb, because we don't know what we're doing, right? And we certainly don't want to burn out those that are seasoned until we become at least half cooked, right? And then also making the guild and the production sustainable. It's great to do one thing once, but we don't want to just stop once. We want to be able to continue that. There's a couple elephants in the room. One, we've got some neighborhood sensitivity. What are we going to put where? And how big and how small. The third thing that we came up with was just a lack of knowledge base. So one, we're young and dumb. But then two, what are the anxieties of the community? So whenever you start something new, you're going to have a community that's going to say, wow, that's fantastic. And then part of the community that's going to say, you're nuts. It's not coming by us. Okay? So there's a concern about being open, and then also maybe a concern about being closed-minded at the same time. So what are the pitfalls that we might have? So what are some things that some communities have done that have absolutely sunk their programs? How do we avoid those? But then what are some opportunities that maybe they've grabbed hold of that would be fantastic for us? And how do we research that? What's the best way to be able to decide what's going to be maybe something you need to stay away from, and some things that we just want to charge toward to really build up our program? And then also publicity. We've got a great group here tonight, but I'll guarantee that we're not representative of all. How big is North Ogden? How many tens of thousands live here? There's not tens of thousands.
Just 20,000.
Oh, with the track meet, it felt like there was a beast. This is a very small community. There are a lot of people that live here, but there's not as many people here as what we would like. So how do we spread that publicity out and make it more welcoming and accessible and engageable? So, and then also agreeing on a unified direction. We've had some that have said, hey, we're only talking about theater, hey, but what kinds of things do we want to bring in? I mean, what is exciting and what is exciting to one is just boring to another, and what is stimulating to one is offensive to another. So how can we be unified in the direction that we're headed with whatever we choose to turn this into? Did I miss anything? Anything you would add?
Great job.
Thank you. I just want to add in that, like, this topic here is one of the things that Jason and I are here to help. You know, we have a lot of knowledge, and if we don't know, we hope we know someone that does. And so, you know, we're here as a resource. Any other weaknesses or challenges? Yeah.
I've noticed living near Barker Park and the amphitheater that every time we have some sort of performance there, there's always neighbors around the amphitheater who will complain because of the noise, complain because, oh, it's going way late and I can't get to sleep, things like that.
Excuse me, I'd like to address that. We have not complained when they were going on. Those were concerns that we all brought up before anything ever happened, and it's according to city code, nothing to do with the neighbors.
Well, I think this was nicely captured here, that we've got it, and it's an issue that needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, it shouldn't be talked about. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, let's.
Oh, no, you're good. I was actually gonna bring up, I think that, what might be a pitfall for a lot of arts guilds is that they like to spread themselves thin and have a lot of small things.
Yeah.
I think that if we can create, not necessarily bigger projects, but more coordinated projects where many art forms are involved, I think then we can then publicize it in a way that's very strong, that brings in a larger amount of the community to then experience and come together. Instead of, because I've seen in some places where they'll have an art show here and they'll have something else here, and it starts to get too much where it kind of loses traction because there's so much.
Yeah.
But if there's 4 or 5 substantial things, maybe things that are strung together that aren't necessarily at the same place or location, but are in a theme together, that way then they kind of piggyback and build on each other.
Perfect. I think that's very smart. It's something I caution local arts agencies about. Because they'll say, like, we're going to start 10 programs for kids. Like, how about 1 for now? So that's very astute.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is be sure that as we're beginning, we manage our expectations, keep it small and grow, rather than starting big and dying.
Perfect. That's really great. Marvelous. All right, yeah.
So my concern is, I think the city needs to have a management plan in place before the art guild starts planning things. The city needs to have their fees in place, their concerns, the safety of, using the police and the cleanup afterwards and all those kind of things. Those need to be in place, so when the art guild comes in, they're given a guidelines. There's a starting point for them, so.
This is all example. Ogden City has got this dialed in. Christine McBride.
You know, and we have many examples across the state that, are cities with different kinds of assets. If you say, we're going to do X and Y, I can say, great, here are people that are doing things like you, and you can look at their resources like that. It's perfect. All right, for time, I think we're going to move on, but you can always contribute last thoughts later. All right? Okay. 4. Who has 4? Okay, so group 4 said, what businesses or organizations in your community would be interested in partnering with with a local arts agency, and how might they collaborate?
Okay, so we're gonna make everybody dizzy.
Oh,
there you go.
We are creative.
Perfect.
So when I first saw this question, I'm like, oh, this is a tough one. But then as we got talking about it, we realized that your arts, the people on that, or your local community and your businesses, need to be able to contribute, not just to, and I appreciate everybody that talks about dance and theater, all those things are important, but there are also other things outside of that could all come under this. And so we kind of brainstormed the kind of things that we could bring in as we talked about the city. And our first one that we talked about, I don't know how many of you know David Owens. He owns Imagine Music, but he lives here in North Ogden. He would be an amazing contact to start some kind of band, you know, because that's what he does. He creates bands and they've been performing. I've been watching these kids on Facebook. It's been fun to watch. And then we started talking about the schools, your cheerleaders. The Warrior X, they were #1 this year. And last year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. You know, those are all kind of resources that are outside of just the theater. They're amazing kids. You know, you've got lacrosse, you've got soccer, you've got wrestling, all of those kids that can come in and create cultural events or activities for our kids. We also talked about, you know, dance teams. We talked about dance teams and stuff like that. We've even talked about Weber State and their graphic arts department coming in and putting something on for these kids that are into games and all of that kind of stuff, giving them an opportunity to know where they should go. We talked about how local businesses, I mean, North Ogden, you know, we don't have an abundance of businesses, but they're all great supporters of the businesses. You know, and so I'm sure if we went to them and said, hey, we've got this going on, they're more than willing to support us. One of my things is, I would like to see an old-fashioned Cherry Days come back. Bring in the bobbing of the apples, bring in, you know, all of those kind of things. Let's make it a huge cultural event, and the city council's going, she's spending our money. But those are all things that you could do locally and easily. You know, you could have groups, you could have scout groups. Ask them, hey, we need a bobbing apple stand, and those kind of things. We could make Cherry Days this huge event that goes from, as it does now, from very early in the morning, but all the way through until our fireworks. You know, those things can happen. And one of the things that was brought up is a farmer's market. And not just a farmer's market where everybody brings, you know, their apples and their oranges and peaches. Those are great. But this is a farmer's market where we display our local talent. This is a farmer's market where local artists can come and they can be painting all day and showing you how, teaching you about painting. All those kind of things. Debbie, anything else you can add at a farmer's market? Because I know
Farmers market is a community event.
Yeah.
And it's bringing the community together, and we have so many of these little crafters. We have
exactly
fruit orchards all over the
and
city.
So yeah.
I mean, and everybody that tries to sell a little thing at the Cherry Days festivals and the park and everything, it's the same thing, but it's in a different format at a farmer's market.
Exactly. And so we can collaborate with all of these. I think one of the things is we need to find out the resources we have in our city. You know, what artists do we have? What painters do we have? I would like to, because this is my baby, I would like to see a local rodeo every month. We have an arena up there that is amazing arena, and a program up there that has almost 30 kids in it. And it would be, it's in Gravel Pit if anybody's interested as to where the arena is. And those kids work very hard all year. But to bring in a local rodeo where people can go and sit on the hill or in the Bowery, there's so many things that art involves. It's not just the plays. They're all wonderful. Art covers everything. Art can go from the simplest of a child standing on a stage just singing to a child running at 30 miles an hour around barrels. I mean, there is so many things that we can collaborate on and bring this community together, not just on the play. And I'm not, Mark, I'm not saying anything bad.
I'm agreeing 100%
So,
with you.
yeah, I know, and I just didn't want you to think I was picking on you on your eyes.
We're on the same page.
Because I've seen you teach, and you do a great job with those kids.
We're on the same page.
And stuff. And so
All right.
that's what I would really love to see is an art guild that brings every form of art together.
Agreed.
Perfect.
Nice.
Thank you. I hate to do this, but we're gonna move really quick through these last couple, and you all can contribute. Jason and I can help scribe afterwards as well. Okay, so question 5. We have a rep from 5. I think 5 had the most difficult question, which is in 5 years from now, what do you envision or hope for your local cultural community?
All right, so a lot of the things we talked about were the same things that Sylvie's talked about. One other addition is it'd be nice to have a dedicated space for storage, rehearsal, and performance. We do have the amphitheater, but like for the band, which is what our table was, having a place to rehearse in the winter and to store large equipment and stuff would be nice. But other than that, we thought family participation in the arts. I know several families. I haven't been able to play my trumpet for 20 years until the North Ogden Community Band. Now my whole family plays in it together, and that's a wonderful thing. I love that as a father. We'd like to see frequent and diverse opportunities. We'd like to build a unified community and to have it support the arts education in the schools as well, to give a foundation for that. I think all that's been talked about. In fact, we would love to play in the pit. I played in the pit in high school, and I thought it was great. So, great.
Thank you. Question 6. So question 6 what should be the goal or goals of your local arts agency?
It's so artistically done.
So, and this will be quick because we had the easiest question, but how many here, their favorite artistic form is pottery? How about, all right, how do you do? So, and in pottery, which specific type of pottery is your favorite?
The one that my friend makes, the one that's on the wheel.
All right, how about you?
Pardon? I didn't even.
What's your favorite form of pottery?
Oh, definitely will.
All right. Music. Who's their favorite form of music?
80s rock.
Just music. Who loves music more than any other art form? All right. So half a dozen. And we all have the same favorite song? No. So our question, read it one more time.
What should be the goal or goals of your local arts agency?
You have to finish, Sean. You're not done.
That's
To make sure every person is represented equally with equal opportunity, self-supporting, Arts Guild should not be an appointed committee. Great. I think these are lovely goals. Thank you. Questions?
I've got 2, they should be short. So if it's not an appointed committee, how are they chosen?
Volunteers.
Volunteers.
Or application process, I think
Or
it
to
helps
be a
out.
volunteer.
Okay.
So that
That's to
way
be discussed.
everybody is represented, or not just specific.
Great question.
Okay, and my other one is, I guess, kind of a comment, except, nope, it's probably fine. Sorry, when I read the first thing, the thing that went through my head was that quote by Lincoln, is that you can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time. That one. But number 1 is still true and still valid, so.
Perfect. Thank you. I want to thank you so much for participating. Personally, I hate this sort of activity, so I appreciate that everyone comes in with generosity and an open mind. So I appreciate that you've participated and you didn't just go grumpy on me, because that's the worst, right? I think we had a really, really productive discussion, and I'm thrilled that there are so many people here excited about arts. Please consider if you want to contribute something to one of these answers. We're keeping all this to pass on to the City Council. And Jason and I are available for questions. All right? Give yourselves a hand. Thank you. And there's lots more cookies.
Before everybody goes, I just want to say we have this 3 choices for Chalk It Up Art. And so we're going to put it on the Facebook page, and you could please vote what's your favorite one that you'd like to see this year.
And the city website.
At the city website. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Hey, you did a good job. You're a great facilitator. Great job.